Her fingers trembled as she scanned the barcode. For the third time, the item refused to register. The man behind her sighed loudly, but the little girl at his side opened a small notebook, quickly drew something, and held it up. A smile. The cashier blinked in surprise, then drew a smile back. "Why are your hands shaking like that?" the man asked, not hiding his irritation. Her answer made him freeze, as if all the noise in the supermarket had suddenly been sucked away, leaving only her words echoing in his mind. The alarm blared at 5 a.m., and Michael Foster's hand silenced it before it could wake Emma. The small apartment on the outskirts of Boston was freezing. The heating system in the building was as unreliable as his construction company's promises of job security. He pulled the blanket higher over his 7-year-old daughter's shoulders before kissing her forehead. 7 years as a single father had taught him efficiency. Prepare breakfast, lay out clothes, check Emma's drawing notebook, the communication tool that had become their lifeline since her speech disorder diagnosis. The morning routine was a well-choreographed dance, with no room for missteps. Michael stared at the stack of bills on the kitchen counter, the speech therapy sessions, the medication, the specialized school, all mounting as the construction company announced another round of layoffs. He ran his fingers through his hair, calculating which bill could wait another month. The refrigerator's hum seemed to grow louder, matching the anxiety buzzing in his chest. Outside, the Boston winter showed no signs of mercy, frost patterns etching themselves across the windows like nature's warning of harder times ahead. In a different apartment across town, Lily Reynolds gripped the edge of her bathroom sink, fighting through another muscle spasm. She practiced the deep breathing her doctor had taught her, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The multiple sclerosis medication for her mother sat on the counter, a constant reminder of why she had abandoned her career as a speech pathologist at Boston Children's Hospital. The framed diploma on her wall now collected dust, while she collected minimum wage as a cashier at Value Mart, the only job with hours flexible enough to care for her mother. Lily swallowed her own medication, hoping it would keep the tremors at bay during her shift. Her supervisor, Karen Ross, had already issued 2 warnings about her scanning speed. One more, and she would lose the job, the health insurance, everything. Lily slipped the folded, miniature copy of her medical license into her pocket, her small reminder that she was more than what people saw at Register 3. Michael gently woke Emma, guiding her through her morning routine with patient reminders. "Socks first, then shoes," he said, watching as she focused intently on the task. The speech disorder made communication a challenge, but the drawing notebook, his late wife's idea, had become their bridge. Emma flipped to a new page, quickly sketching a bowl of cereal with a question mark. "Yes, there's enough milk for cereal today." Michael answered with a smile, though he knew he'd have to water down his coffee again. He checked his phone, another email about a potential layoff at the construction firm. His stomach tightened. Emma's specialized school and therapy weren't cheap, and the health insurance only covered a portion. He looked at his daughter, her dark curls framing a face so much like her mother's, and pushed the worry down. "Let's get you to school, princess," he said, helping her pack the drawing notebook that never left her side. The fluorescent lights of Value Mart buzzed overhead, as Lily arranged her register for the morning shift. Karen Ross approached, clipboard in hand and disapproval in her eyes. "Yesterday, you were 15% slower than our standard checkout time," she said, tapping her pen against the board. "The company can't afford inefficiency, Reynolds. Customers complain, they shop elsewhere, we lose money." Lily nodded, keeping her eyes down. "One more incident, and I'll have to reconsider your position here." Karen walked away, her heels clicking like a countdown. Lily flexed her fingers, willing them to cooperate today. The morning dose was wearing off already, she'd have to wait until lunch for the next one. She touched the folded diploma in her pocket, reminding herself who she really was before customers started lining up with their judgment and impatience. After picking Emma up from her specialized school, Michael stopped at Value Mart for groceries and medication. His budget was stretched thin, forcing him to calculate the cost of every item that went into his cart. Emma tugged his sleeve, pointing toward the bakery section with its display of colorful cupcakes. Michael shook his head. "Not today, sweetheart. We need to save for your medicine." The disappointment in Emma's eyes stabbed at his heart, but the upcoming therapy bill would hurt more. He guided her toward the pharmacy section, grabbing the prescribed medication that helped with her speech exercises. Emma clutched her drawing notebook tighter, her small universe of expression. Michael checked his watch. They needed to get home for her therapy exercises. Then he had construction plans to review for tomorrow's meeting. Every minute was accounted for, every dollar allocated. He moved toward the checkout lanes, scanning for the shortest line. Lily stood at Register 3, fighting to keep her hands steady, as the afternoon rush began. The medication was wearing off faster than usual, the the tremors becoming more noticeable with each item she scanned. A mother with a toddler gave her a look of impatience as Lily fumbled with a barcode, then sighed loudly before moving to another lane. Each departure felt like an indictment. She spotted Michael and Emma, approaching her register, and braced herself. The little girl caught her attention immediately, something about the way she clutched a notebook, the careful way her father guided her. Lily recognized the signs from her years of practice. As they placed their items on the conveyor belt, she noticed the speech therapy medication among them, confirming her suspicion. "How are you today?" Lily asked, her standard greeting feeling suddenly inadequate as she began scanning their items. Her hands betrayed her immediately, trembling as she tried to scan a carton of milk. The scanner beeped unsuccessfully 3 times before registering. Michael checked his watch. "Could you please hurry a bit?" he asked, his voice tight with barely contained stress. "We're on a schedule." Lily nodded, but her hands shook worse now, hyper-aware of his impatience. The scanner failed to read the barcode on the box of pasta. Behind them, the line was growing, and whispers of frustration rippled through the waiting customers. Emma watched Lily intently, then opened her notebook. She drew quickly, a simple smiley face, and held it up for Lily to see. The unexpected gesture caught Lily off guard. For a moment, the tremors subsided as she smiled back at the girl. Their eyes met in a flash of mutual understanding. Lily had seen countless children like Emma in her practice kids, who found creative ways to bridge the communication gap. Without thinking, she reached for a pen and receipt paper, quickly drawing a smiley face in return. Michael, exhausted and stressed about the time, misinterpreted the exchange. "Could you focus on scanning our items instead of drawing with my daughter? If you can't handle this job, maybe you should find another one." The words came out harsher than he intended, born from a day of worrying about bills and Emma's progress. Lily froze, the scanner suspended in her trembling hand. Karen was standing nearby, watching the interaction with narrowed eyes. This could be the final strike that cost Lily her job, the only income supporting her mother's care. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, trying to control the shaking. "I'll go faster." Something in her voice, not resentment or defensiveness, but a dignified pain, made Michael pause. Emma tugged at his sleeve, shaking her head vigorously. She quickly drew in her notebook, a sad face, with a large question mark. Michael felt a twinge of shame. "I'm sorry," he said, softer now. "It's been a long day." Lily reached the final item, Emma's speech therapy medication. She recognized it immediately. She'd prescribed it countless times to her young patients. Her eyes flicked to Emma's drawing notebook, and understanding dawned. Professional instinct nearly made her offer advice on supplemental exercises that could help, but she caught herself. That wasn't her role anymore. Karen approached, her presence like a shadow. "Is there a problem here, Reynolds?" Michael noticed the supervisor's tone, the way Lily's shoulders tensed. He saw beyond his own stress for the first time. "Why are your hands shaking like that?" he asked. Genuine concern replacing his earlier irritation. Lily met his eyes directly. "I have stress-induced tremors. I work here because I need the flexible hours to care for my mother who has multiple sclerosis." No self-pity, just facts. The answer hung in the air between them. Michael stood speechless, suddenly seeing the woman before him in a completely different light. Emma looked up at her father, then back at Lily, a silent understanding passing between them. In that moment, their separate worlds, each with their own struggles and dignities, collided and recognized each other. 3 days later, Michael returned to Value Mart alone, deliberately choosing Lily's checkout lane despite others being empty. He waited his turn, rehearsing his words. When he reached the register, he placed a single item on the conveyor belt, a small package of colored pens. "I wanted to apologize properly for the other day," he said as Lily scanned the pens. "I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." Lily nodded, her hands steadier today. "Everyone has rough days," she said, avoiding his eyes. $7.50, please." Michael handed her a $10 bill. "My daughter Emma really liked your drawing. She has childhood apraxia of speech, that's why she uses the notebook." Lily's professional knowledge flickered across her face. "I recognize the medication," she admitted. "And the communication notebook. It's a good system." She hesitated, then added, "I used to recommend similar approaches when I was a speech pathologist at Boston Children's." Michael's eyebrows rose in surprise. "You were a speech pathologist? Why would you?" He stopped, realizing the presumption in his question. "My mother's condition deteriorated rapidly last year," Lily explained, returning his change. "The hospital schedule wasn't compatible with her care needs. This job, despite everything, allows me to be there for her treatments. She didn't elaborate on the financial strain, the nights spent researching alternative therapies, the apartment downsized to afford care. Emma's been in therapy for 3 years now, Michael said. Progress is slow, but her therapist says the drawing approach has been helpful. It was my wife's idea, before she passed away. Something softened in Lily's expression. The visual communication bridge. It's an excellent technique, especially with apraxia. Has her therapist tried combining it with rhythmic vocalization exercises? For the first time in months, Michael found himself discussing Emma's condition with someone who truly understood, not with pity or clinical detachment, but with genuine knowledge and compassion. Lily offered insights that even Emma's current therapist hadn't mentioned, speaking with the confidence of someone who knew her field intimately. As their conversation continued, Karen appeared, eyeing the interaction with suspicion. "Reynolds, you're backing up the line again," she said, though only one customer waited behind Michael. Michael straightened. "Actually, Miss Reynolds was giving me professional advice about my daughter's speech condition. She used to be a speech pathologist." Karen's skepticism was palpable. If she were really a doctor, why would she be scanning groceries? The dismissive tone made Michael's jaw tighten. Before Lily could respond, Michael pulled out a business card. "I'm a structural engineer at Foster Construction. I don't judge people by the jobs they take to survive, and neither should you." The directness of his response surprised even him. Karen retreated, momentarily speechless. As Michael prepared to leave, he hesitated. "Emma has therapy on Saturday mornings, but we usually go to Brighton Park afterward. Maybe if you're not working, you might have more suggestions for her exercises." The invitation hung between them, unexpected and sincere. Lily's professional instincts warred with her personal boundaries. "I'm off this Saturday," she said finally. "My mother enjoys the fresh air, too." That Saturday, Michael and Emma arrived at Brighton Park with her therapy notebook and a cautious optimism. They spotted Lily almost immediately, sitting on a bench beside an elderly woman in a wheelchair. Emma's face lit up, and she immediately opened her notebook to draw a greeting. The winter sun cast long shadows across the playground, where a few hardy children played despite the chill. A sense of possibility hung in the crisp air, as tangible as the frost crunching beneath their feet. "That's Lily from the store," Michael explained as they approached. "She knows a lot about helping kids who communicate like you do." Emma showed no hesitation, holding up her drawing of a smiling sun for Lily and her mother to see. Sarah Reynolds, despite the ravages of MS, smiled warmly at the child. "What a beautiful artist you are," she said, her voice soft but clear. As Emma showed more drawings to Sarah, Michael and Lily sat nearby, watching the natural connection form between them. "Your daughter is remarkable," Lily said. "Her visual spatial intelligence is evident in her drawings. That's often a strength in children with apraxia. Her therapist says she's making progress, but sometimes I worry it's not fast enough," Michael admitted. "The school has been pushing for more intensive intervention, but the cost." He trailed off, the familiar weight of financial worry settling on his shoulders. Lily nodded in understanding. "The healthcare system doesn't make it easy." She hesitated, then reached into her bag, pulling out a worn professional journal. "These are some exercise techniques I developed before leaving the hospital. They might complement what her current therapist is doing." Michael accepted the journal, touched by her willingness to share her expertise. "Thank you. This means more than you know." As they watched Emma and Sarah interact, Michael shared more about his journey as a single father, the loss of his wife to cancer, the challenge of balancing work with Emma's needs, the constant fear of not being enough. Lily spoke of her mother's diagnosis, the difficult decision to leave her career, the struggle to maintain dignity in a job where she was often invisible or judged. The afternoon light filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across their faces as they spoke truths rarely shared with others. A nearby fountain provided a gentle soundtrack to their conversation, its steady rhythm somehow making it easier to open up about the hardest parts of their lives. They were two people carrying heavy burdens, suddenly finding understanding in an unexpected place. Before they parted, Michael handed Lily a folded paper. "This is information about a support program I found for caregivers of MS patients. It might have resources for both you and your mother." Lily accepted the paper, surprised by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you," she said, her voice catching slightly. In that moment, something shifted between them, not romance, but a recognition of shared humanity and mutual respect. 1 month later, Michael's phone rang as he sat in the waiting room during Emma's therapy session. Lily's name appeared on the screen. "Michael," her voice was shaky. "I'm being let go. Karen says Value Mart needs employees who can maintain consistent scanning speeds." The district manager is here now. Michael understood immediately what this meant: not just a job loss, but the loss of health insurance for her mother, the inability to pay rent, everything crumbling. "I'll be right there," he said, explaining the situation to Emma's therapist, who agreed to let Emma stay in the waiting area with the receptionist. At Value Mart, Michael found Lily collecting her belongings, her eyes red-rimmed. Karen stood nearby with a man in a suit, the district manager. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed with an almost accusatory intensity, highlighting the stark power imbalance in the scene unfolding by the employee lockers. A security guard hovered uncertainly near the exit, as if Lily might attempt to steal something on her way out, adding another layer of humiliation to the dismissal. "Sir, you can't enter the employee area," Karen said when she spotted Michael. "I'm not here as a customer today," Michael replied with professional calm. "I'm here as a structural safety engineer." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder of documents. "My firm has been contracted to assess the safety compliance of Value Mart locations throughout Boston, and I've identified several concerning issues at this facility." The district manager paled. "I wasn't informed of any inspection." "It's an unannounced assessment," Michael said, knowing he was risking his professional reputation. "And one of our evaluation criteria is how businesses accommodate employees with health conditions. It's part of the overall workplace safety environment assessment." Karen interjected. "That has nothing to do with structural safety. Actually, recent studies show that toxic work environments increase workplace accident rates by 40%, Michael cited confidently, inventing a statistic that sounded plausible. "And terminating employees for health conditions not only violates the Americans with Disabilities Act but creates a stressed work atmosphere that leads to errors and accidents." The district manager, concerned about corporate image and potential lawsuits, intervened immediately. "Karen, we should reconsider this decision. Miss Reynolds, you'll retain your position." Lily looked at Michael, understanding the risk he had taken. When the managers left, she whispered, "You weren't really hired to do an assessment, were you?" Michael shook his head. "No, and if they check, I could be in serious trouble. But sometimes you have to choose between what's safe and what's right." That evening, Lily invited Michael and Emma to her apartment for dinner, a small thank you for his intervention. The apartment was modest, but warm, with medical textbooks lining the shelves, and Sarah Reynolds sitting in her wheelchair by the window, a blanket over her legs. Over a simple meal, Lily shared her story. She had been a rising star in pediatric speech pathology, developing an innovative approach for children with apraxia. When her mother was diagnosed with aggressive MS, Lily had abandoned her career to become her caregiver. The woman who had raised her alone after her father's death deserved nothing less. "I don't regret it," Lily said, watching as Emma showed Sarah her latest drawings. "But sometimes I miss my old work, miss making a difference for children like Emma." Michael understood then that Lily wasn't just a cashier with trembling hands. She was someone who could potentially change his daughter's life. As Emma and Sarah bonded over drawings and simple communication exercises, Michael and Lily discussed possibilities, ways her expertise could help Emma, ways his engineering connections might help find better accommodations for Sarah's mobility needs. They were no longer strangers united only by chance and struggle, but people who recognized value in each other beyond first impressions. Before leaving, Michael said, "Emma's school is hosting a resource fair for parents next month. They're looking for speakers on alternative communication methods. Would you consider it? Your expertise shouldn't be hidden behind a register." Lily's eyes widened. "I'm not sure if I'm ready to step back into that world." "Just think about it," Michael said. "Some gifts are too important to keep to ourselves." 6 months later, Michael sat in the waiting room of a small clinic. A sign on the door read, "Hope Speech and Communication Therapy," with a logo of an open notebook. Emma emerged from the therapy room, clutching her drawing notebook, her mouth forming careful words. "Dad, I said a complete sentence." Lily followed, her eyes bright, her hands steady. "Emma has made tremendous progress. The combined art-speech approach is working beautifully." The small clinic opened with Michael's help in finding affordable space and design assistance had become a place where Lily could combine therapy work with her mother's care. Sarah often sat in the corner of the clinic, enjoying the children's laughter, her own life enriched with purpose again. The walls were adorned with children's artwork, colorful expressions of progress and hope. A shelf near the reception desk displayed various communication tools and fidget items, carefully selected to help children feel comfortable and engaged. Through the window, the first hints of spring could be seen in the budding trees, a fitting metaphor for the new beginnings taking root inside these walls. "I have good news," Michael said. "The insurance company has agreed to cover Emma's treatment fully, thanks to your progress reports." Lily smiled. And the support program you recommended has been approved for my mother. She starts the new treatment protocol next week. They walk together in the nearby park. Michael, Emma, Lily, and Sarah in her wheelchair. Emma ran ahead, stopping to draw what she saw. Today, the drawing notebook was no longer a necessity for communication but a creative joy. I never thought I'd return to therapy work, Lily admitted. Thank you for trusting me with Emma. And thank you for showing me that sometimes, the shakiest hands are the strongest ones, Michael replied. Emma ran back to them, holding up her notebook. She had drawn the four of them, holding hands. Beneath it, she had written a simple sentence. My new family. Michael and Lily looked at each other, saying nothing, but their eyes conveyed mutual understanding. Not a hasty romantic connection, but a deep appreciation of each other's worth. Two people who had learned to see beyond appearances to the dignity and strength within. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the four of them, a tableau of unexpected connection forged through hardship and recognition. A bird sang from a nearby tree, its melody simple yet profound, much like the journey that had brought them to this moment of quiet solidarity. Sarah took Emma's hand, whispering, "Would you teach me to draw sometime?" Emma nodded vigorously, then opened to a fresh page in her notebook, a symbol of a new beginning, imperfect but full of hope.